Hey guys, it's Kate, and I've got my art supplies, my journal, and my art prompts, and I'm going to come and do another journal page today. I really enjoy using these art prompts, and they just really help me get out of my comfort zone a little bit and just really loosen up. So I hope you'll join me today and do a few art prompts with me. So here is a new one. Add brown. And for that, I actually think I am going to go into my acrylic inks. All right, so I'm in my acrylic inks. I got my Amsterdam ink burnt sienna. So this is what I'm going to add for brown today. And I'm actually going to go straight in with my dropper. And I'm going to go kind of light with the color, just so I don't get my paper too wet. I'm going to use my silicone to spread it and just let it make those organic marks right on my paper, like that. Okay, next prompt. Draw one large organic shape. Well, let's grab another color. I'm going to grab craft paint today. And I've got this brown iron oxide. So let's give this a try. All right, I'm grabbing my filbert brush that's kind of large, and I'm just dabbing it in water. And I'm going to pick up some of this color on my paper, on my brush. And I'm drawing one large organic shape. So I'm just going to go for this, and then we'll go from there. And I do like using these craft paints because they dry pretty quickly and they're matte. So if you want to have a fast journaling project, you can get some pretty nice coverage with these too. And why don't I even just make this come down some more, just like this. And I'll bring this up off the page. And then I'm just going to harden up this line because I want that hard edge, I think, on here. So I'm just going to go slow around that curve and then work on filling in the rest of this spot. All right, there's my large organic shape. Do I want to add any more on this side? Like come up the side maybe a little bit? Well, let's go ahead. Why not? We can always paint over anything we don't like. Paint over, draw over, mark over, and we like our layers. Okay. And that finishes up all the paint too. So that works out for us today. All right, next prompt. Keyword dark. For keyword dark, this can be dark marks, dark colors, really anything. You can even darken up an existing shape. Now, one thing I got recently was this woodless charcoal pencil set from Hobby Lobby, and I've really enjoyed it. So I think I'm actually going to use this for mark making today. And I tried this a little bit today, and I really like it. And you can even spread it a little bit with water and everything. So I think I'm going to do something a little bit different, and maybe I'll start with some lines, just like this. And the charcoal draws really smoothly, and it will activate just a little bit with water, but it's not going to dissolve like watercolor will. So you'll still have the marks on your page, although I need to figure out if it's the same over gesso, because gesso is kind of an interesting surface where you can get some different effects that you can't get on plain paper. One example of that is my those King Art gel sticks that I have. Those are an example of what goes on paper. It's like when you add water over it, it leaves sort of a crayon texture mark behind, but when you do it over gesso and you add water, it smooths pretty perfectly. So I need to try that with charcoal. All right, keyword serene. I think I'm going to add some blue. Blue to me right now seems serene. Now I've got 3 different colors of blue here. You can see them. They're not all that different. This one has a slightly more greenish tint to it. This is almost like a Wedgwood blue, and that's a little darker. I think I might use this one. This is Anita's acrylic, and this is number 11178. Aegean blue. All right, let's get this color out here. And I think that's a pretty color. That'll go pretty nicely with the brown. And I think for this, I'm going to go in with a palette knife. I haven't painted with one in a while. So let's see. This one's kind of big. All right, I'm going to kind of bend my plate a little bit. I have it just a little bit on the edge. And I'm going to start with some lines. And maybe bring these across. And so I'm kind of carrying on that line theme that I've got going on with the charcoal, but with this really pretty blue color. And maybe I'll come down here and add some. And maybe here. And why don't we use our palette knife and add some marks here. Just like that. And I've got a little bit of the line coming off too, which I'm okay with. It kind of adds an interesting texture there. So I'm going to add those just a couple other places, maybe coming up from the bottom. And I'm going to kind of go over that area again just to pick up some of that excess paint and then take it back up with that. All right, how about our next prompt? Add circles. Well, those are my favorite. And I have a couple of things that I've kind of enjoyed using lately as almost a little stamp. So I've got this from a tape roll that ran out of tape, and I used this for some gold ink before. And I've also got this. It used to go around one of my quill brushes, and it's just sort of a piece of plastic. So I think what I'll do is go back into this blue color that I have on my plate, and I'm going to start with small circles. And I'm going to add some marks here. And I'm just going to kind of go over some of the places. I'm going to crowd them together maybe here, but maybe I'll put them further apart up here, almost like they're going to the top of the page. And I'm going to let them go over the top of the page, and maybe I'll even bring some down here. And just group some. I want to try to be random, so I've got a group here, maybe a couple together there, one by itself, and maybe I'll link a couple of these up there. So it's almost a little bit more random. And then I'll just give this a quick little wipe so I can use it another time because I really like this tool and it's free. So that's even better. Literally anything can be a stamp, that's for sure. All right, now on to my tape roll. Let's see what kind of marks we can get with this. So I've got a good little coat of paint, and maybe I'll add some bigger circles here. I like that. That looks pretty good to me. Okay, I'm going to put that aside, and let's do another prompt. Keyword open. Well, that's an interesting one. Okay, for open, I'd like to do something where something is unfolding, uncurling. So I think I'm going to grab one of my Posca pens, and actually I have a nice brown one here that maybe will kind of go with this, but I think I'll do kind of a flourish coming up out of this background where the white and the burnt sienna is in the back. So I might even have it come straight up out of here. And I'm not sure about this color. Maybe it might be a little bit too similar. But if I have it kind of coming into this brown a bit, maybe, I don't know. Let's try a different color. Why not? Okay, let's try this blue. And this is almost a little bit too, too dark, but we're going to roll with it. Yeah, you know what? I kind of like it. And maybe I'll put like a little solid dot or little oval at the end of each one. Almost like it's a little flourish leaf tip or something like that. Yeah. Now I think I want one coming out over here, but maybe coming through some of this. And I'm trying not to get it in the wet paint here because I don't want to mess up my tip. So we'll go with that. On to the next prompt. Add texture with a household item, sponge, bubble wrap, mesh, etc. Okay, I think what I'm going to do is use this piece of paper to blot my page, and I think that will leave some texture left behind from the paint that I lift. And what I might do is do this a couple of times so that it leaves a mark behind with wet paint that was on my page, and you can see it right there. And I think that looks pretty neat, so I'm going to do that for that prompt. I like that. Okay. Add white. Okay. I'm just going to grab my gesso and put that right here on the plate. And let's continue with our mark making. So I think what I'll do is add some maybe dashed lines or something like that. So I'm going to dip my silicone in there, and I'm going to come right up the side. I want to really increase that contrast. So I'm going to put it on this dark brown spot, and I might do a couple of little rows of those here because I kind of like that look. And maybe I'll put some in another place across the top. And I might even add a few coming down the side like this. I think that's a good amount of white for now, but I've got some more on my plate for adding some later. Okay, what's next? Add a pattern. Well, I've got some patterns on here already, but what I might do is I've got this sort of swirly thing here, but I don't have that blue anywhere else. So I might go back in with the blue and just add this color somewhere else on the page. And maybe I'll add a pattern of circles with my existing circles that I have. And just follow these up the page. And I might do the same thing where I group some together, have some by themselves, but they're going to be smaller than the other ones that I've done with my mark making stencils. Like this. And I think that's kind of a neat pattern. Maybe I'll have one over here. And maybe a couple down here. Like that. And there's my pattern. Okay. Color a highlight. This might be a good opportunity to use some more of my white. And maybe I'll add just a hint of blue to it. Let's see how that looks. I kind of like that. It's kind of a nice, really pale color. And since this color blue is already on my page, I think that'll work nicely. And maybe I'll go kind of next to this swirl and just kind of go over it. You know what? I'm going to get a smaller brush. Okay, we're going to use this one instead. And that way I can be a little bit freer with it without worrying about trying to get a good line. And I'm just kind of going next to my marker mark so that you can still see it. It's just not quite so in your face. And I'm picking up paint pretty often. This is a very bristly brush, so it almost looks in some places a little bit like dry brushing, even though it's not. It's a pretty saturated brush. And I'm just going round and round with this, just like that. And I think that looks pretty neat. And what I might do even is add a few highlights here to these circles. And just sort of make some pretty light ones. Just like that. All right, scratch or add grooves with a palette knife. Well, I happen to have one handy. Okay, it actually stopped recording while I was in the middle of a scratch. I'm just going to go through here. Some of my paint is dry, but I'm just scratching into it anyway and seeing what kind of marks I can get. And so that's done. Okay, we've done a bunch of prompts. I think what I'm going to do now is try and get this finished. I've got a heck of a background here. And so I think I'm going to work on finishing this up and turning it into a good little journal project. So I'm going to give this just a few minutes to dry and think about what I want to do. Okay, bear with me here. I think I want to add this color. This is a lime color and it's kind of pretty. I want to knock some of this back, but be able to see some of the marks through. So I'm going to take this and add this as kind of a new layer color. So I'm just going to dip into it with my silicone, and I am going to make a mark here, just like this. And you can still see all of the texture coming through, but it doesn't look quite so busy. And so I'm going to do a little bit here, and I'm just going to kind of let the paint go where it wants to. Now I do want it to come off the page up here, so I'm going to kind of fix that a bit and add a little bit here, and maybe a little bit down here at the bottom. Like that. And I actually kind of like this look. You can see a lot of texture coming through, but we've really quieted down our painting, and I honestly still don't know what I really want to put here. But what I do have is a good surface to make my focal point pop. And so what I might do next is add in a little bit of that brown again, but I'm actually going to do some alcohol ink and do just a couple of little droplets down here. And maybe just a couple up here at the top. And then I'm going to go back in with my little circle stencil into this blue ink or blue paint that I have left over, and I'm going to go back over this green just a little so you can see where I'm kind of adding a couple of little detail marks over the top of it again, but it's not overwhelming. So I'm just bringing a little bit of that texture back up to the front. Okay, I think over the top of this green, I'm going to put that burnt sienna from the background. It's a really nice, well, one, it's transparent, and it's also a pretty warm color. And I think what I would like to do, or see about doing, see how it looks, is get my big brush and do some leaves. But they're going to be almost like fall leaves, pretty earthy and just inky. So let's see just how this looks, and we'll go from here. Okay. Ooh, that's a very pretty color, and it leaves some texture too. Let's see. let's get some more ink and continue this down. And I'm just letting my brush kind of make its own texture. I'm just really kind of pressing down on it. And let's go right there. I think that's really pretty. I'm just kind of twisting my brush as I sort of pick it up. And I might go over this one just a little bit more. And bring this down right off the page. And I really love how that looks. Okay, I'm still damp, but I think what I'm going to do is go in with just a hint of warmth. And so I've got this orange color here, and it's kind of a little bit similar to that burnt sienna. I'm just going to see how it looks if I make a couple little splashes on here. And it's okay. I think I might try a little hint of red. Just, I don't know, I've been really enjoying the pops of red lately, and I like how that looks. And I'm just going to do it very lightly and leave it at that. But then I'm going to grab my stylus and some of this leftover white that I've got on my plate, and I'm going to add just a few little dot details to the bottoms of these leaves. And then I think that's going to bring some more brightness that we really need on this page as a highlight. And so I'm just doing some very quick dabs. They're not all even and the same. I'm just getting some nice little highlights on here and add a little bit more to that pattern that we have kind of going on in different parts of the page. But now that we have a focal point, it really helps it stand out. And I just kind of picked a side for this top one because I've been doing sort of the bottoms of the little leaves. And I think we can call this another done journal page. So I'm going to take out my protective sheet and give you a close-up. And we have quite a few layers on here and some colors, and I think they go really well together. And then our focal point, we've got some leaves and we've got some highlights and all of that, and some interest and patterns. So I hope you enjoyed doing this along with me today, following along with the prompts. And if you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more like this, subscribe to my channel. And thank you for watching. And until next time, keep creating.